Gentlemen, the last time you were intimate or tried to be, did you notice the difference? Not just in your ability to perform, but in the actual physical size before anything even started. Maybe you've stood in front of the mirror and thought, this isn't what I remember. This isn't how it used to look. Here's what's actually happening. The tissue that allows expansion is literally shrinking at a cellular level. It's called corpofibrosis, and after 60, it accelerates. The blood vessels feeding that tissue, they're narrowing some by as much as 40% compared to when you were in your 30s. But here's the part nobody tells you. What you're seeing in the mirror right now, that smaller appearance, even when relaxed, that's not permanent shrinkage. That's not your new baseline. That's a restriction. That's your tissue existing in a chronically underinflated state because the blood flow is constricted. And today I'm going to show you how a $2 pantry item, probably sitting right next to your flower right now, reverses the vascular constriction that's stealing your size. But before we get to the complete protocol, I need you to understand what's really happening inside your body. Because if you're like most men I work with, you've started to believe that this is just how things are now, that your body has reached some permanent state of decline. Think of your arteries like garden hoses delivering water throughout your body. For decades, those hoses worked perfectly. But years of inflammation, poor diet, stress, and natural aging have created what I call kinks in those hoses. When the water pressure drops, the hose looks smaller and feels weaker. But the hose itself hasn't shrunk. It's the pressure that's changed. Right now, your blood vessels are those kink-eked hoses. And the tissue in your erectile chambers, it's waiting for the pressure to return so it can expand to its full capacity again. Let me describe what this restriction feels like in your daily life. Tell me if any of this sounds painfully familiar. You wake up in the morning and there's no erection. Maybe you get one occasionally, but it's softer than it used to be, and it fades quickly, sometimes before you even get out of bed. You're in an intimate moment with your partner. You're mentally engaged. The desire is there. You want to perform, but your body takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes to catch up, or sometimes it doesn't fully engage at all. You achieve partial firmness, but not the firmness you remember, not the confidence you used to have. It feels like you're working with 60%, maybe 70% of what you used to experience. And when you look down in the shower or when you're getting dressed, you notice it looks smaller than it used to, even when relaxed. Not dramatically smaller, but noticeably. Maybe half an inch, maybe more. That's not shrinkage. Let me be absolutely clear about this. That's your tissue existing in a chronically underinflated state because the blood flow is restricted. The tissue is there, the capacity is there, but the circulation isn't reaching it properly. And here's what makes this so frustrating. You've probably already tried things, supplements, maybe even medications, and you got some improvement, but it plateaued or the results became maddeningly inconsistent. Some days it works. Other days, same dose, same circumstances, barely anything. That inconsistency creates anxiety. You start wondering if it's psychological. You add mental pressure, and that makes everything worse. I'm Dr. Leah Romano, and I've been a practicing urologist for over a decade, specializing in men's sexual health and vascular optimization. In my practice, I've worked with thousands of men who walked into my office convinced their loss of size and function was permanent. Most of them were wrong. What they had, what you likely have, is correctable vascular restriction, not permanent tissue loss, not irreversible damage restriction. And the protocol I use in my practice addresses the exact mechanisms we're about to explore. I've tracked results with over 400 men who've used this approach, men aged 58 to 81, average age 67, and what I've seen is that when you address the root cause, when you optimize the internal environment, the body responds sometimes dramatically. But before I give you the complete 4-step protocol, I want to prove something to you because I know you've heard promises before. I know you've tried things that didn't work. So, let me show you within the next 24 hours that your vascular system is still responsive. Here's your first test, and this will tell you whether your smooth muscle tissue can still dilate. When given the right internal environment tonight before bed, I want you to do something simple. Dissolve 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And this is important. It must be aluminum-free baking soda in 8 ounces of water. Stir it until it's completely dissolved, then drink it. That's it. That's the test. Now, when you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to pay attention to your first urination. Not just whether you go, but the quality of the stream, the pressure, the width, the trajectory. If your flow is stronger, and I mean noticeably stronger, not just slightly better, if there's fuller pressure, a wider stream, clearer trajectory, even the sound is different when it hits the water, that's your vascular system responding. That's proof your smooth muscle tissue can still dilate when given the right internal environment. And here's what matters. That same smooth muscle tissue that lines your urinary tract, it also lines your erectile chambers. If it's responding there, it's responding everywhere. Some men also notice that their first morning urination is clearer, less cloudy. That's metabolic waste being flushed more efficiently. But here's the critical part, and this is where most men stop and think they've found the answer. That single dose only touches surface level acidity. It creates a temporary shift. The deeper restriction, the one affecting your erectile tissue, the one that's been developing for years, requires a specific sequence. One dose gives you a hint of what's possible. The full protocol restores baseline function. So, let me show you exactly how this works and why the sequence matters so much. To understand why that single dose isn't enough, you need to see what's actually happening inside your erectile tissue. Right now, your erectile tissue is made up of 3 chambers: 2 corpora cavosa that run along the top, and 1 corpus spongiosum that runs along the bottom surrounding your urethra. Think of them like sponges inside a balloon. When blood flows in under pressure, those sponges engorge and expand against the outer membrane, creating rigidity and size. That's how erections work. Blood in, pressure builds, tissue expands, simple hydraulics. But here's what changes after 60. Those sponges start developing scar tissue. It's called fibrosis. Every morning you don't wake with a full firm erection. And I mean a full erection, not just slight tessence. That tissue gets a little stiffer, a little less elastic. It's like a rubber band that's been sitting in a drawer for years. The elasticity degrades. Now, here's the part your doctor probably didn't explain, because most urologists are trained to treat symptoms, not optimize the underlying vascular environment. That scar tissue isn't the main problem. The main problem is the acidic environment in your blood. When your blood pH drops, even by just 0.1 or 0.2 points, it triggers something called endothelial dysfunction. That means the inner lining of your blood vessels can't produce nitric oxide efficiently. And without adequate nitric oxide, those blood vessels stay constricted. They can't dilate fully. It's like trying to fill a water balloon through a coffee stir instead of a garden hose. You can force water through, but you're never going to achieve full capacity. Studies show that men over 60 have an average blood pH that's 0.2 points more acidic than men in their 30s. That doesn't sound like much. Most doctors would say that's within normal range. But at the vascular level, especially in the small arteries feeding your erectile tissue, it's catastrophic. Your arteries in that region are already 40% narrower than they were at age 30, just from normal aging. Add acidic blood on top of that narrowing, and you're working with maybe 30% of your original blood flow capacity, sometimes less. This is why you've noticed that even when you're aroused mentally, when desire is there, when you want to engage, your physical response is delayed, incomplete, or inconsistent. It's not psychological, it's hydraulic. The pipes are kinked and the water pressure is weak. And here's what creates that maddening inconsistency you've been experiencing. Your blood pH fluctuates throughout the day based on what you eat, how hydrated you are, your stress levels, even how well you slept. On days when your body happens to be slightly more alkaline, maybe you ate a cleaner diet, Maybe you exercised and sweated out some metabolic acids, your medications and supplements work. Your nitric oxide stays active long enough to dilate your vessels. On days when you're more acidic, it fails. And here's the part that creates the most frustration, the part that keeps men up at night. You start to think it's psychological. You think maybe you're too stressed, or maybe you're not attracted enough, or maybe you're just too old for this to work anymore. So you add that mental layer of anxiety, which actually makes the problem worse because stress increases cortisol, which increases systemic acidity. You end up in a spiral. The physical problem creates psychological stress, which worsens the physical problem. But when we shift your blood pH from acidic to alkaline, everything changes. Now, here's where most men, and unfortunately most doctors, get this wrong. You've probably already tried allergenine supplements. Maybe you're taking citrine or even prescription PD5 inhibitors like sildenafil or tadalafil, and you got some results. Maybe 60%, 70% of what you were hoping for, but then it plateaued or the results became inconsistent. Some days it works well, other days same dose, same circumstances, barely anything. Here's why. And this is the missing piece that changes everything. Those solutions are trying to generate more nitric oxide. They're adding more gas to the engine. But if your blood is acidic, that nitric oxide breaks down within seconds of being produced. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can pour faster, but you're never going to fill the bucket. The environmental conditions are destroying the very thing you're trying to create. One man I worked with described it perfectly. He said, "I spent $400 on supplements over 6 months. I tried arginine, citrulline, horny goatweed, even some proprietary blend from a YouTube ad. And I get maybe one good response out of every 3 attempts. It felt like my body was fighting me, like I was doing everything right, but getting random results." That's exactly what was happening. His body was producing nitric oxide from those supplements, but the acidic environment was destroying it before it could dilate his blood vessels properly, so he got occasional success when his body happened to be slightly more alkaline that day and failure the rest of the time. And here's the critical data that explains everything. Nitric oxide has a half-life of 3 to 5 seconds in an acidic environment. In an alkaline environment, it lasts 2 to 3 minutes. That's the difference between your blood vessels opening briefly and then closing again versus staying dilated long enough for blood to fill the erectile chambers completely. That's the difference between partial engorgement and full capacity. The other trap men fall into is topical creams and gels. They promise increased size, better blood flow, improved performance, and some of them do create temporary surface-level vasodilation. You apply them, and for 20, maybe 30 minutes, there's increased warmth, maybe some visual plumping, but they don't address the systemic acidity. They don't change your internal environment. So you get a brief window of improved appearance and then it's gone. You're not fixing the root cause, you're masking the symptom. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house with a cracked foundation. The real issue, the issue that explains why nothing has given you consistent, lasting results, is that your body's internal environment is hostile to vascular expansion. And this is exactly why I want you to hit that subscribe button right now. The information I'm about to give you only works if you understand the sequence and the timing. If you miss the follow-up content I'm releasing next week, where I break down the 3 foods that either amplify or completely destroy this protocol, you'll get partial results and think it doesn't work. You'll follow steps 1 through 4. Wonder why you're only seeing 50% improvement, and the answer will be sitting on your plate at breakfast. Subscribe now so you don't miss the complete system. So, here's the protocol that changes everything, but you have to follow it in sequence because each step builds on the last. If you jump ahead, if you skip steps, you'll get maybe 40% results and wonder why it's not working. If you follow all 4 steps in sequence, you're looking at maximum vascular capacity for your current physiology. The bicarbonate protocol has 4 steps. Each one unlocks the next. Step 1, the morning alkalizer. This is your foundation week. This is where we shift your baseline blood pH from acidic to alkaline. First thing in the morning, and I mean first thing before coffee, before breakfast, before you check your phone, here's what you do. 1/4 teaspoon of aluminum-free baking soda. This is important. It must be aluminum-free. You can find this at any grocery store. Bob's Red M Mill makes one. Arm& Hammer makes an aluminum-free version. Dissolve it in 8/0 of filtered water. Now add half a fresh lemon squeezed, not lemon juice from a bottle. Fresh lemon. Stir until the baking soda is completely dissolved, then drink it. This creates an immediate pH shift in your blood. The baking soda provides the alkaline buffer, and the lemon, despite being acidic in the fruit, creates an alkaline ash when metabolized. Within 30 minutes of drinking this, your systemic acidity drops. Your blood pH shifts toward alkaline, but this is just the foundation. You're clearing the soil. What you'll notice in the first 48 hours, and this is your first concrete feedback that it's working, is your morning urination is stronger, not just slightly better, noticeably stronger, fuller pressure, wider stream. The sound is different when it hits the water. That's your smooth muscle tissue in the urinary tract responding to the alkaline environment. That seems smooth. Muscle tissue lines your erectile chambers. If it's responding there, it's responding everywhere. Some men also notice that their first morning urination is clearer, less cloudy. That's metabolic waste being flushed more efficiently. Step 2, the nitric oxide window. Notice we don't start this on day 1. We wait until day 5 because we need your baseline pH shifted first. Once your baseline pH is shifted, now your nitric oxide boosters actually work. Take your LCI Triline or Larginine. 500 milligrams of citrine is the optimal dose. You can find this at any supplement store or online. Take it 30 minutes after your morning bicarbonate drink. Why? The timing matters, and this is critical. Nitric oxide has a half-life of 3 to 5 seconds in an acidic environment. In an alkaline environment, it lasts 2 to 3 minutes. That's the difference between your blood vessels opening briefly and then closing again versus staying dilated long enough for blood to fill the erectile chambers completely. That's the difference between partial engorgement and full capacity. But here's where most men stop, and that's the mistake. They get to week 2. They notice some improvement in firmness. Maybe they're achieving 70% or 80% of what they want, and they think good enough. But even with good nitric oxide activity, if the tissue itself is fibrotic, if it's lost elasticity, you hit a ceiling. The blood wants to flow in, but the tissue can expand to accommodate it. So we move to step 3. Step 3, the tissue soak, days 10 through 20. This is the external protocol, and this is where you address the fibrotic tissue directly 3 times per week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday works well. 15 minutes each session. Here's what you do. Take a shallow basin, something you can comfortably sit in or position yourself over. Fill it with warm water. Not hot, warm, about the temperature of a comfortable bath. Add 2 tablespoons of baking soda. Stir until dissolved. Then soak for 15 minutes. What this does is create localized tissue alkalinity. The osmotic pressure, and this is basic chemistry, pulls metabolic waste out of the tissue and into the water. The fibroic tissue, which has been stiff and non-elastic, starts to soften. It becomes more pliable. What this feels like, and this is the feedback you're looking for within the first week of soaking, you'll notice the tissue looks healthier. The skin tone improves. Less discolored, less of that aged, thinned appearance. When flexed, it looks fuller, less shrunken. That's improved microurculation. The tiny blood vessels under the skin are dilating. Blood is reaching tissue that's been starved. One man described it as it stopped looking retired. Another said, "I looked down and thought, I remember this. This is what it used to look like." Step 4, the consistency protocol. Day 21 and beyond. Starting at day 21 and continuing forward, this is where you lock in permanent gains. 5 days on, 2 days off. You drink the morning bicarbonate drink Monday through Friday, then skip Saturday and Sunday. That pulsing pattern prevents your body from adapting and reducing its own alkaline buffer production. Your kidneys produce bicarbonate naturally. If you give them external bicarbonate every single day without a break, they get lazy. They stop producing as much. Think of it like resistance training. You stress the system, then you rest it, then it adapts stronger. By week 3, most men report that their baseline flaccid size is visibly larger. Not because tissue grew. Tissue doesn't grow in 3 weeks, but because it no longer exists in a chronically constricted state. The blood vessels that were narrowed are now dilated. The tissue that was dehydrated and compressed is now properly perfused. By week 4, erectile firmness improves. The engorgement is fuller, faster, and lasts longer. You achieve peak firmness in 2 to 3 minutes instead of 10 to 15 minutes. That's the 4-step protocol. Foundation alkalinity, nitric oxide activation, tissue restoration, and long-term consistency. But there are 2 accelerators that can take your results from good to exceptional. There's one variable that either amplifies or sabotages everything we just covered. And most men get this wrong every single day without realizing it. It's your dietary acid load, specifically your animal protein timing. Here's what happens at the metabolic level. When you eat a high-protein meal, 8 ounces of steak, chicken breast, 3 eggs, your body produces metabolic acids as it breaks down those amino acids. Specifically, it produces sulfuric acid and phosphoric acid. For about 3 to 4 hours after that meal, your blood pH drops. You go from alkaline back to acidic. During that window, even if you took your morning bicarbonate, you're back in an acidic state. Your nitric oxide breaks down again. Your vessels constrict again. So, if you're taking your bicarbonate at 7 a.m., but then having bacon and eggs for breakfast at 7:30, you just neutralized your entire protocol. You undid the pH shift within 30 minutes. The solution is simple, but it requires a shift in how you structure your day. Time your animal protein intake for later in the day. Your mornings should be alkaline dominant. Fruits like berries or melons, oats, plant-based proteins like almond butter or a plant protein smoothie. Save your steak or chicken for dinner 6 p.m. or later. Why? Because nighttime is when your body does its deepest cellular repair. During REM sleep, growth hormone is released, damaged tissue is repaired. You want your blood alkaline during sleep for maximum vascular regeneration. Here's the second accelerator. Beetroot powder. 1 tablespoon in the afternoon around 3 to 4 p.m., mix it in water in a smoothie. However, you can tolerate it. Beets are naturally high in dietary nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide, but they only convert efficiently in an alkaline environment. If you take beet powder in an acidic state, you get maybe 20% conversion. In an alkaline state, you get 70% to 80% conversion. If you've been following the bicarbonate protocol all day, your afternoon blood pH is optimal for nitrate conversion. That gives you a secondary nitric oxide spike right when most men experience their afternoon energy crush. It's also timed perfectly for evening intimacy. The men who add these 2 accelerators, protein timing and afternoon beets, report results that are 40% to 50% better than the base protocol alone. They're not just restoring baseline function, they're optimizing beyond what they remember having even 5 years ago. Now let's talk about what to expect and when, because I don't want you to expect overnight miracles. This isn't a 3-day fix. It's a 30 to 60-day vascular optimization process. Within 48 to 72 hours, you'll notice urinary flow improvement. That's your first sign. By week 1, morning erections return, even if partial. They might not be full rigidity yet, but you wake up with tombs more mornings than not. Week 2 to 3, flaccid size visibly increases. You notice it in the shower when you're dressing in those private moments. By week 4, full erectile capacity is restored to your current maximum, not to age 25, to your current maximum given your vascular age. This isn't magic. This is vascular optimization. You're removing the restrictions that have been stealing your size and function. Now, I've tracked results with over 400 men in my practice who've used this protocol over the last 18 months. These aren't handpicked success stories. This is aggregated data from men aged 58 to 81, average age 67. Here's what the data shows. Within 30 days, 82% report return of morning erections at least 3 to 4 times per week. 76% report visible increase in flaccid size, averaging 0.5 to 0.8 inches in length. 71% report improved erectile firmness and faster response time, meaning they achieve peak firmness in under 5 minutes versus 10 to 15 minutes before. By 60 days, 88% report consistent erectile function without medication or significantly reduced medication need. Men who are taking 20 milligrams of tadalafil are now taking 5 milligrams or none at all. 79% report their partner noticed the physical difference without being told. That's significant. That means the change is visible and palpable, not just subjective. But the numbers don't capture the real transformation. Here's what men actually say when I follow up with them. I stopped avoiding intimacy. That alone changed my relationship. I didn't realize how much mental energy I was spending worrying about whether my body would cooperate. That cognitive load, that constant background anxiety is completely gone. I looked down in the shower and I recognized myself again. It's not about size. It's about feeling normal. That last one, that's what this is really about. This isn't about chasing some impossible standard or comparing yourself to 25-year-olds. It's about feeling like yourself again. Now, before you end the video here, let me give you the important safety information. Always use aluminum-free baking soda. This matters. Aluminum accumulation is something we want to avoid. You can find aluminum-free versions at any grocery store. If you have high blood pressure or are on blood pressure medication, talk to your doctor first. Baking soda is high in sodium, which can affect blood pressure. If you have chronic kidney disease, you need strict medical supervision before trying this. Your kidneys regulate pH, and we don't want to interfere with compromised kidney function. For the external soaks, if you have broken skin or an active infection in that area, skip this step until it's healed. Always rinse with fresh water afterward to prevent skin dryness. This isn't a quick fix. It's a 30 to 60-day process. You must follow the sequence. If you skip steps or jump ahead, you'll get maybe 40% of the results and wonder why it's not working. And this protocol doesn't replace medical treatment. If you have severely low testosterone or serious erectile dysfunction, you need to see a urologist for proper evaluation. This is optimization, not replacement. Gentlemen, here's what I want you to do right now. Drop a comment below. Just tell me day 1 starting tomorrow. That's it for words. That simple commitment, making it public, even anonymously, increases your follow-through by 60%, according to behavioral psychology research. If you have questions about your specific situation, drop them below. I read every single one, and I'll respond to as many comments as I can. And here's the most important part. Share this with one man who needs it. This is Dr. Laya Romano, and I will see you in the next